Hello, I'm Jason Barrage, President and CEO of Complex Community Federal Credit Union. We're excited to be with you for your freshman seminar at UTPB. While we're accustomed to meeting in person, these times in which we live have required us to get outside of the box and share our presentations virtually. We have a long-standing relationship with UTPB and are glad to bring you budget and credit seminars, helping you grow in your financial knowledge so you have choices as you go out into the world. Did you know that 79% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck? What does this mean? It means you don't have financial capability to pay your bills, provide food or other necessities for your family. In short, living paycheck to paycheck means you don't have as many choices and your opportunities are limited. One of the greatest investments you'll ever make is your education and your understanding of financial capability. Special thanks to Dr. Woodley and Dr. Frawley for understanding the importance of your educational experience and the need for that educational experience to include financial capability. At the end of each session, you will go and have a chance to submit questions. We look forward to the opportunity to responding to those questions. We're excited and ready to run with Freshman Seminar.
Hey, I'm Madison and I'm with Complex Community Federal Credit Union, and today we're going to be talking about spending, saving, and then everything you need to know budgeting 101. So I believe that knowledge is power, so today we're going to cover what a budget is, we're going to cover knowing ourselves, knowing our relationship with money, as well as setting goals that are reasonable and important, and then really covering, do I need to budget? Why is it important? So what is a budget? A budget is a personal financial plan that allocates future income towards three key areas: savings, expenses, and debt repayment. So the very most important thing when you're starting to set a budget is to really know yourself, know what your habits are, understand what your personal relationship with money is. So what describes you? Three kind of general ideas you might fall into categories are the person who scrimps and saves, you know where every penny goes, very frugal with money. And then another group of people might be someone who's afraid of making a mistake. They're a perfectionist, so it's just better for them to not budget at all. It's what they think. They stay away from it because they have a fear of failure. And then there's the group of people who they spend money as fast as they get it. It burns a hole in their pocket. They can't hold on to it for very long at all. So really know who you are and your relationship with money. One of the best ways to know that and to find out what your relationship with money is to write down every dime you spend for a couple weeks. Count everything. Every time you go to the vending machine, to Starbucks, every meal, every piece of clothing, write it all down. That way you have a clear understanding of where your money is being spent so that you can start to decide what is a want versus what is a need. So needs versus wants are concepts that make or break every budget. So your needs are those indispensable things: food, water, shelter, clothing, those things you can't live without. And then wants is everything else, all of the fluff in life. So we use a technique to help decide between if something is a need and a want. And we call that the Moscow technique because it becomes must have, should have, could have, and won't have. So your needs are your must-haves and your should-haves, your wants are your could-haves and your won't-haves. And then they can be separated into high priority and low priority. So think about if your job is to be a waiter or a waitress. You, in order to do your job effectively, must have a pair of shoes. You have to have shoes to come to work. That is a must-have. That's a high priority need. But think about how many hours a waitress or a waiter spends on their feet. It would be really unfortunate if something happened to their feet, so they need to be protecting them. So a good, supportive, comfortable pair of shoes is important. So that really should be a should have. Can live without the supportive, but really to do their job effectively should have it. But let's think about what a want in that situation would be. So waiters and waitresses make tips. This month, maybe I worked some extra overtime hours, got extra tips, I have a little bit of extra wiggle room in my budget, I am going to treat myself to a night out at the movies. That's something that I could have because I have that wiggle room in the budget. But what about if, I don't know, maybe I didn't have that good pair of shoes, and so I got a really bad, nasty blister, and I had to take a couple days off so that my feet could heal, and I have no wiggle room in my budget. I'm tight. That movie night, that special treat I could have before, now I can't have, so it becomes a won't have. So every decision that you make in regards to money, you need to think about, is this a must have, a should have, this month a could have, or not right now, this is a won't have. So it's important to really set goals for yourself. And while you're setting those goals, be realistic. If you're someone who never cooks, you eat out all the time, it is not realistic at all to say, I'm never going to eat out again. But a goal that's more realistic and in that compromise middle ground is maybe I'm going to eat out 3 less times a week. Start small. Every goal that you set, make it something that you can achieve, and then you can build on it. Have an idea of where you want to go and reasonable steps to get there. So let's get started on actually building a budget. So the very first thing you need is a template. So that can either be a paper, pencil, written template, which we're going to attach our sample for you to download and use, or it can be an app or an Excel spreadsheet or a website, something digital. I want to make it so clear that you should never spend money on a budgeting tool. There are many free opportunities out there. Find one that works for you that doesn't cost you any money. An app that I recommend is the Every Dollar app by the Dave Ramsey organization. But again, the paper and pencil version is a really good starting place, and you can download ours at the end of the slides. So when you're building a budget, the first thing you need to know is what your income is. So income is everything that comes into your pocket. It's all of the money that you receive. So money from your job, money from grandma because it's your birthday, tips, side job money, every penny that comes into your pocket. And then the next piece are going to be your expenses. Now, the very first expense is what we call pay yourself first, PYF. We recommend that 10% of every penny that comes into your pocket, you put aside in savings, paying yourself first. And then your other expenses, that's going to be your rent, your car payment, gas, food, clothing. And then lastly, your debt reduction. So if you have debt, credit card debt, car loan, home loan, those payments are a key part of your budget. So here is what our template budget looks like. So you can see the income piece. You can see where you put in the monthly money that you bring in, all that money that you bring in. And then you can see each category of expenses. Number 1 being your savings, that PYF, so important. Then your expenses like your debt, your expenses like your car, your gas, your food, those are your necessities, those needs pieces. And then the bottom portion of your template is going to be your discretionary pieces. Those are your wants, your Netflix subscription, your movie night, your hair care, your makeup, getting your nails done, those fun things, but not necessarily your needs. Those are your wants. So the next piece we need to talk about is the tax bracket. So as you are looking for the career that you want to pursue, one of the things you need to consider when you're looking at how much money you're going to make is every person has to pay taxes. We all give a portion of what we earn to the government to maintain roads, for Medicare and Medicaid, for the military, and other government programs. And that money is pulled out of your paycheck first. So you pay taxes off of a percentage. That percentage is deemed by how much money you make a year. So most Americans live in the 12% tax bracket, the majority of Americans. So when you're choosing when you're calculating what your monthly income is going to be, make sure that you are considering taxes. So at the top, on the right hand side of your template, it has an example of how to do those tax calculations. We have attached a chart and the visuals that you need to know in order to do those calculations. So if you have any questions, we're going to have about that. We're going to have a slide at the end where you can send us an email. We can absolutely help you out with that, but taking care of taxes is so important. So you've completed your budget. You filled out all of those needs and wants, all of the expenses, your income, your savings, paying off debt. You're finished and yay, you're done. You have money left over. Well, what do we do now? So we encourage that you name every single penny. Those of you who have ever had $20 in your pocket and then a day later, 2 days later, you wonder, well, where did the money go? Where did I spend it? That is something that's so easy to do. So it's important to, even if you're allocating that extra money to fun or extra savings, go on and give it a name so you know where every penny goes. Or what if you've completed your budget and you're on the other side of the coin? Uh-oh, I busted it. I spent more money than I budgeted. What now? That's when you have to take a good look at where you're spending your money, like we talked about earlier. Where's my relationship with money? Where am I spending my money? Look for places in your budget where you can cut back. As a college student, a great way to cut back on rent is roommates, or walking or taking the bus to cut back on your transportation expenses. College is a time to live lean and mean so that you can live large later. So we've talked about a lot. One of the key things I can tell you is that a budget runs monthly. It is what we call a living document. As you continue to grow and get used to using a budget, you're going to find that every month is different. Things happen, your spending priorities change. Go back every month, make amends to your document, live with it, learn how to make it work for you. But what pieces are missing that we didn't talk about today? We didn't talk about your 401k, your retirement. We barely touched on debt. We didn't talk about insurance or expenses as far as if you have a pet or have a child or pay child support. So I encourage you to tune in to further sessions as we talk about these important financial topics and cover them later on. So just some last thoughts. A good budgeting process is going to help you reach your goals. So set those goals, make them reasonable and attainable, and then work towards achieving each step. I can't stress it enough. Pay yourself first is a game changer. 10%, it's important to take care of yourself, pay yourself first. The importance behind budgeting and the reason that we come to teach you these topics is being a financially capable adult, using good budgeting processes, being in the know, understanding these financial capability concepts gives you more opportunity and more choices. We want to have the highest amount of choices that we can have, the greatest amount of opportunities. So that education and knowing how to manage your money is so important. But y'all, this is the time to live lean and mean so that you can live large later. Okay guys, we're back for the question and answer portion. I have brought Jason, our CEO, to come in and be our expert, and we are so glad to have him. We're going to touch over some of the questions that we get most commonly after talking about budget. So if you're ready, we'll dive right in.
Let's go. I'm ready.
Okay, so the first question that I get is, what if budgeting is just not working?
You know, if budgeting's just not working, you just need to rethink, are you using the right tool? Do you have the right attitude about what you're doing? Sometimes tools are pretty complex. Sometimes your attitude's not in the right place. You just need to make sure those are both in the same place. Do you have the right amount of money in each different category? Do you have too much money in your eating out category versus your spending time, entertainment category? So you just need to figure out what categories are right. It's a living document. You need to let it live, and it's fluid every month.
So you talk a little bit about tools, but what about your attitude and how that affects your budgeting?
You know, if you're not committed to your budget, if you don't have the right attitude about what you're trying to accomplish, you won't be successful. You have to be willing to commit to whatever it is, whether it's maybe cutting back your eating out, spending money on shoes, cutting other things out. You have to be committed to that. If you're not, it won't be successful. So
I'm trying, I'm getting a little better, but I'm really struggling and I'm having failure. It's just been a struggle. Is that okay, or do I just need to give up?
Failure's part about learning the budget. You have to learn. It's a living document. It's something it's fluid. You have to revisit it. You might have something happen this month that won't happen next month, and you need to figure out a way to make it fit in. But it's fluid. There's something always changing. So failure is not the end result. Continually moving on and moving your budget down and into the next month and reworking it and moving to the next month and reworking it. Because there's going to be times that you have expenses that you didn't expect to see coming.
Question number 2. I have fixed my attitude. I'm committed. I'm working through my living document, but I have one section of my budget that I go over every single month. Do you have any tips on what I need to do to make that work?
You know, as you said, it's a living document, and you just need to revisit it on a regular basis. And you need to be real with yourself. Are you committed to not spending money on shoes? Or maybe might be part of your budget, and you don't want to spend money on shoes, but you do every month. You just need to be real with yourself. Is it eating out? Maybe all your friends and the peer pressure is, hey, let's go out and have dinner and have fun, but you know that your budget is spent until next week. You need to come up with some creative ways to work around those, to be able to make it where you can fit everything in there, but maybe you have them come to your house and y'all have make your own pizza party and have fun at your house rather than go out and have dinner. But you got to be creative. Maybe when you tell your peers that, hey, I've spent my budget till next week, maybe they can help hold you accountable for that and be able to bring you back and say, well, you told me you didn't have any money. Let's just do something different.
All right, Jason, lastly, so I would love to hear your insight on how to prioritize savings versus paying down debt.
That's a good question, because it's a hard place to be. But it all depends on your interest rate. If you've got an interest rate that's 20 or 30%, yeah, you definitely want to get rid of it. But you would have had to proven to yourself that you can save money. You need to have a savings account there. You need to have your emergency fund. So in case something happens, you can handle situations. And you can take that money and put it on that high expensive debt. If you can reduce that debt load, and you've proven yourself that you can save money, that's a good position. But if you're not going to stay away from the credit cards, if you're going to charge them back up again, you're doing nothing but spinning your wheels, because at that point you're going to wind up depleting your savings and getting yourself into more debt. So you have to be committed to being able to make sure that you're willing to not charge that card back up again. And once you pay it down, then move that money back into savings and continue saving from that point.
Thank you, Jason, for spending your time with us and bringing your insight and your expertise. We really appreciate it.
It was my pleasure. I enjoyed teaching and having the opportunity to share what we've learned, and hopefully that somebody can make a better choice down the road.
Absolutely. And to all of you, we'll see you next time.